problems out there, no problems in here. It's the way it should go.
Yeah, if it stays that way, we're in good shape.
Okay.
We've seen how modern technology is trying to cope with traffic chaos, but we're now going to join Steve Grant. He has a story about another method of traffic control. This one is much older, but it's still very popular.
You know, it's hardly unusual these days to see a cellular phone inside a van or a car. I mean, it's pretty well a required luxury. But for the hundreds, if not thousands of people who commute in and out of the city every day, their real lifeline are the radio traffic reports.
Eastbound 401 is reopened. It was closed around Mugger Road. Also, according to our callers, specifically, we have problems.
The daily bumper-to-bumper conditions have produced a bumper crop of radio traffic reporters. Reporting gridlock is nothing new. It began a good 30 years ago, but radio programmers are aware now more than ever that the station that stays on top of traffic will likely be on top in the ratings race as well.
CHFI FM 98 with Paul McCartney.
And it's 8:30, and he does in fact give a hoot about your route. Here's CHFI traffic and Russ Holden.
Thanks, Sandy. Southbound 404 Parkway, not too bad. Parkway is 7.
We find people tuning us in morning and afternoon drive as much for the traffic as for the music, and perhaps more so on certain days. We've had 2 planes up for 10 years or more. I've lost track of how many. I've been here 10 years, and we've always had the planes up, both of them. I think you've got to have 2 planes. We were even thinking of 3 at one time. And you've got to have your ground sources. If you just sit in a room, usually what happens in a case like that, and it happens with us all the time, is people monitor our reports and scribble it down, and then 5 minutes later go on the air with those reports. Well, 5 minutes later, the situation's changed.
What we see, and what a lot of people may be surprised, is that we very seldom see an accident actually happen.
Russ Holden has been waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning for 17 years to fly over the city of Toronto. His job is to steer you and I away from the next pileup.
Credibility really is something that takes you a long time to build up. And the way to do that is that you can't say what you really don't know. Like if there's a problem on the Parkway and I haven't seen that problem for 15 minutes and the chance that it's cleared up at that point, I'm not going to say the Parkway is jammed down to Lawrence because of an accident. I'll say the Parkway was solid down to Lawrence when I saw it last. And that's true. You have to be truthful about it.
They say to me, they say, oh, it must be nice to go flying, you know, all day long, listen to records, talk, but what you see, great, busy. You're constantly juggling. You're constantly changing priorities. What's important at the moment? Air traffic control, radio station. Safety's got to be the #1 item. Has to be first. But it's always a change. You're talking to me, I can talk to you now. Somebody else calls me, I'll stop in the middle of a conversation because it's more important than you are at the moment. Right now, they're calling me.
Safety has always been a concern, even when Eddie Luther began reporting way back in 1961. Eddie was the first, and in most people's opinions, probably the best traffic reporter ever.
I don't think that they thought it would be, you know, that useful, but it was a novelty, and the helicopter itself was a novelty, and doing traffic was a novelty, so then it did prove itself to be useful, so then everyone else started doing it shortly after that, you know. We relied strictly on what we saw, but now with their immediate contact with all these other areas, they can do a much better job.
People want to listen to traffic reports for basically 3 reasons. First of all, there are the people that are prepared to take an alternate route. He is the active listener. You have the listener who will stay with the Parkway, but he wants to know where the problem is and what's happening to know about how long he's going to be there. He calculates, but he stays with the route. And then there's the third listener who goes down the Parkway no matter what. You can tell him it's closed. You can tell him there's a 15-foot hole across the entire Parkway, and he'll still go down the Parkway. But he just wants to know what's happening. Thursday. Generally speaking, Thursday is the lightest day of the week. I don't really know why. I don't know whether people go in early Thursday so they'll get all their work done so they can leave on Friday. Thursday morning and afternoon, generally speaking, are lighter than any other day of the week. Friday morning is the next lightest day, and Friday afternoon is the worst. And there's almost an inverse rule of Fridays that we have. If it's very light Friday morning, it's very heavy Friday afternoon. And it almost always follows.
Brian, I'm looking downtown right now at the Gardner Boat.
I enjoy getting up and flying. I love to fly, and that really is the icing on the cake for me. And I enjoy the job. It's always different.